Hey guys, welcome to Ion Cricket. We're here to review the Sri Lanka versus Bangladesh game, the 15 match that took place in the T20 World Cup. And it was yet another loss for Sri Lanka. As you guys know, over here we're primarily a Sri Lankan channel with a lot of keen Sri Lankan pundits. And I think they're very disappointed by this loss. Adil, what do you have to say about this loss, man? It really looked like Sri Lanka had it at one point, but unfortunately not this time.
Yeah, I think obviously it's disappointing to see, but if you just take a overall look at the game, I think both teams competed or tried to lose. The team who succeeded in losing successfully was Sri Lanka. If you look at the game from the beginning, both teams tried to give the game to the opposition. Like Sri Lanka, we had a great power play. I would say yes, we lost the second wicket in the last over, but still it was around 50 for two. We started so well. Pathum was looking $1 million, and he was going great. Hi Viren, hi.
Hi,
Yeah.
hi
So
Adil.
let me just continue my rant. Then I'll let you take on. So yeah, as I started saying, it looked like both teams tried to lose the game, and eventually Sri Lanka succeeded in getting the actual L. So yeah, we started so well. We had a good power play, and then all of a sudden we just went back to this test cricket mode or whatever mode that we have. The middle overs was a disaster. We were all set well. Dhananjay Sila walking in at number 4 was fine because we lost the second wicket in the last over while still being in the power play. So yes, he came at 4 instead of Wanindu or maybe even Charit. He rotated the strike while Pathum Nissanka did most of the scoring. And you know what? When the spinners came, he just didn't continue rotating the strike. There was suddenly a lot of dot balls being bowled at Sri Lanka, and that put more pressure on Pathum Nissanka. Mohammedullah bowled an over for just 4 runs. Imagine. So he's not even their sixth bowler. Mahmudullah, he just bowled an over for 4 runs. There was no intent whatsoever. It's not that he bowled great and uh, bowled it for 4 runs. There was no intent whatsoever, not even to rotate the strike. And then you know what? Pathum Nisanka, unfortunate, he tried to up the rate. He got out. Charita Salanka, I thought, I don't know. I can't I can't say what happened with him. I honestly thought Charita Salanka would come and take maybe 1 or 2 overs to settle down and then take on the bowlers. He hit 1-6 against Richard, the leg spinner. Obviously, that's a favorable matchup for him. I expected him to be more aggressive against the leg spinner. And Wanidhu Asaranga, yes, he got a good ball, but come on, man. It's just not his tournament. Let's not talk about him. And then once we lost the Wanidhu Hasaranga, I mean, it was clear that we are going to end up in a below par score. What you should have done there is reassess. You had Angelo Matthews walking in at that point, the most experienced cricketer in the country. So, I mean, it's obvious that you're not going to get 160 from that point onwards. So you have to reassess. You have to just. It's not always about getting to the best score. It's always about staying in the game. If they had okay, reassessed and tried to get to some point at least to some 140 or something, we would have won the game, right? On hindsight. So what baffles me with this Sri Lanka lineup is their inability to inability to stay in the game. With the ball, they do that. They pick up wickets and they stay in the game. But with the bat, they just there's some brain fade. It's so baffling to see how they approach the middle overs even after those back-to-back wickets. They just they didn't seem like they are playing a game, or they are reading the situation, or they are aware of what's happening around them. So batting definitely let us down. I'll not talk about bowling. Let's keep it for Viren. Or batting definitely let us
Well,
down.
Viren, they were 85 for 3 in the 12th over at one point. It was looking good for Sri Lanka. What do you think happened there? What is your thoughts on the batting? You're muted.
Junior, do I have your permission to go on a bit of a tangent and a bit of a rant here? I've come on
Yeah,
here to go on a bit of a tangent.
go
Look,
ahead.
the issues with Sri Lanka cricket are systemic. They are deep, deep, deep rooted issues. As someone who's followed every single Sri Lankan game, I'll be very honest with you, Junior. Whenever I tune in for a Sri Lankan game, be it against Bangladesh today, be it against South Africa the other day, be it against Bangladesh in the World Cup, Afghanistan in the World Cup, go back to 2019 during that terrible World Cup campaign we had. I tune into each and every game with hope, with a sense that Sri Lanka will come off victorious. But there's something I realized today. We are the naive ones, and we are the fans who are being misled by those in the upper echelons of Sri Lanka cricket. And why do I say that? For the past 9 years, since 2015, I can go on record and say from 2015, we have had a total of 170 changes to our 11 going into each game we've gone into. So in 170 different instances across formats, we've had changes to our playing 11. And what makes that situation worse is when you take World Cup cycles, you expect teams to do their preparation, find out their combinations, play their strongest 11s, test them out, and then come into a World Cup. But what frustrates me is from 2015 onwards, we've used the warm up period, the warm up games, plus the first few games of a World Cup campaign to figure out what our combination should be. You can get Chris Silverwood up here, you can get Wanindu Hasaranga up here, you can get the Sri Lanka cricket officials up here. And I'll tell you right now, they'll give you 3 or 4 different preferred playing 11s, which shows you that there is no cohesive plan in place for the side. And secondly, Junior, let's go back to 2015, to Adelaide in 2015, when England had reached their rock bottom. That was after they lost to Bangladesh in the 2015 World Cup. Owen Morgan, Trevor Bayliss, and the ECB revamped English white ball cricket. And I think today, if it hasn't sunk in yet, if it hasn't happened yet, today should be that day for Sri Lanka. Yes, it was against Bangladesh as well, but I'll tell you why today is such a significant occasion. In 2019, we had a disastrous World Cup campaign, but all our pundits, all our cricket board officials found a saving grace in the fact that we beat the eventual world champions, right? So our dismal performances were discarded. Let's look at the 2023 World Cup. What was the saving grace? That we couldn't field our best 11 because of injuries and that we missed our star spinner Wanindu Hasaranga. So had he played, we would have had a wonderful World Cup. That was the narrative that was spun around. In all these World Cup campaigns post 2015, they managed to find some excuse, some saving grace to defend Sri Lanka cricket. But now I don't see that anymore. Because I'll tell you exactly why. You can't call a team a professional outfit if you're entitled to play cricket, if your responsibility is to play cricket. You can't complain about long haul flights. You can't complain about playing at different venues during an ICC competition. You can't try to find different scapegoats for poor performances or external factors to kind of try and find causality for your poor performances. You know why I'm quite disappointed today, Junior? Because it would have been a different story today had our batters finally clicked. It's quite unfortunate because I'll go on record to say this. I think we have the most well rounded bowling attack in the competition. And we've not shown that just once, but twice over. We had a brilliant bowling display against South Africa. And I have to go on record to say this. We had a brilliant bowling display today as well. No one gave us a chance of trying to defend 124. But when your batters continuously let you down, and that's where I want to break this myth about our cricketers being talented. Yes, undoubtedly that they have the most unique skill sets. They're the most dynamic players that we could find, and each of them have their own niche. But what's the point in having so much talent if you can't execute and you can't apply it on the big stage? And unfortunately, Junior, I've reached a tipping point today with Sri Lanka cricket. Unless I see change across the structures of Sri Lanka cricket, I know we'll keep having these issues. These will be recurring issues. They'll keep taking fans for a ride. They'll keep taking the loyal fan following for a ride. And it is us, those who set our alarms at 5:45 a.m. on a Saturday morning, that are expected to view these displays and kind of brush them aside as one-off performances. But I'll tell you what the norm is. The norm is the poor performances we have, and the victories we've had over the past few years are unfortunately the outliers.
I think
Can
that
I just conclude?
deserves a couple seconds to let that sink in. Adil, I'll definitely want to hear your side of things. Do you share this frustration, Adil, as a Sri
Oh,
Lankan fan that has been
definitely,
disappointed?
definitely. I think Viren echoed the sentiments of all Sri Lanka cricket fans across the world. So, I mean, let me just continue from where Viren started. Viren, yeah, stop. So, yes, 2015 is where 2015 was the start of England's rise and the the downward thing of ours. So yes, we've been losing, we've been changing players, coaches, selectors, everything, administration changed everything. But I think the tip of the iceberg where we reached like the proper rock bottom was 2021. The tour of England, where an English commentator, if I'm not wrong, I think that was Mike Atherton who asked Kumar Sangakkara, are these the best players in Sri Lanka? Because we look like a team of amateurs, set of amateurs, amateurish cricketers who can't just connect bat to ball. That's how bad we looked in England against a world class side in English conditions, and uh, the English fans were like, decent enough not to boo at Sri Lanka for the way we played in that series. That was so bad, and there was so many off the field things happening as well. But what happened after that series, or what happened after that tour, was the best overhaul, or not the best, I would say, not the perfect overhaul, but to date the best something that Sri Lanka tried. There was something tried after that tour, right? Uh, Tom Moody was roped in. Mahela Jayawardena was given a bigger responsibility. Selection committee didn't change, but so many things changed after that tour. The team changed. We had new captains. We had Dasun Chanaka as captain. Teams changed. Some senior players were axed. Like there was some proper overhaul to the team, which is not what impressed me, because we've seen that happening in 2019. We've seen that happening in 2017. It has happened every year or every 2 years. But what actually happened, apart from the overhaul for the team, was there were some structural changes. They put in place a roadmap to revamp the domestic structure. I think by the end of this year, we'll see the number of domestic teams coming down from 26 to 15, and it will be pruned further, and it will reach 12. So these structural changes are happening. But you know what? At the helm, the CEO remains the same. The board of administrators, they remain. They never change. They never lose a single election. So there are things that never change. But you also see structural changes. See, structural changes are happening, but the losses keep happening, right? But and there was a short period where we had some hope, where we won an Asia Cup, where we felt like we are finally good enough to compete against the top sides, where we actually challenged India in a series. We lost 2-1. We almost won that series, a T20 series in India. So there were glimpses. So there was a process put in place. But you know what? 2023 ODI World Cup again. That was just a disastrous World Cup. But Sri Lanka being typical in typical Sri Lankan fashion, we did another overhaul with just 6 months or less than 6 months for a T20 World Cup. And I had zero expectations for this management to put up a proper plan for this World Cup. Let's be honest. 6 months is not enough to prepare for a T20 World Cup. You change the captain, you bring in a discarded, you bring in not only one discarded, so many discarded senior players, and you completely change the combination. Sri Lanka is not a side who played with four main bowlers and fill up bowlers, right? We played as Wanidu as our fifth, Wanidu as part of our five-man bowling attack. We did not depend on part timers to fill up for the fifth bowlers uh, positions. That's the combination we played. Yes, we were still short of power in the middle, but now we have a long batting order, so the combinations change. So what I'm trying to say is these changes, structural changes, keep happening, but at the end of the day, it, as Viren correctly said, it comes down to players delivering in the middle. Doesn't matter how much talent you have, doesn't matter how much support you get, doesn't matter how much facilities you put in place, you just have to deliver in the middle. That's what matters at the end. And what Sri Lanka did so well during the past, during our golden or during our prime age, prime time, or during our golden era, the Sangas, Mahelas, they, if they even they came through this same structure. We did not have a different structure back then. It was the same club structure. It was the same administrators, same coaches, same. I mean, nothing was different. Maybe they had even worse structures before this, but we had Kumar Sangakkara's, Mahelas, Sanat Jayasuriya's, Muralidharan's coming through the ranks. And what made them stand out was, with all the talent, they made sure they delivered when it matters the most. They performed in crunch games. Sri Lanka used to qualify for I mean, most of the knockouts in the tournaments that they played. So I think it's a problem. I don't know. It's a problem which is still yet to be addressed. Players not performing, players not mentally strong enough, players not mentally strong enough to understand strategies and play strategic cricket. Cricket is now a thinking game. You just can't win with skills. Power alone doesn't win you T20 games anymore. Why does IPL team spend a lot on analysis and backroom stuff? Because cricket is not just skills and power anymore. There's a lot of thinking, planning, strategizing going behind the scenes. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know, Sri Lanka, most of the international teams are very well prepared. They might have even planned out their complete journey from game one to the final, because you can guess your oppositions, right, in the next rounds. So they might have planned the final even. Possibly teams like India might have already planned the final, because they know, I mean, they can guess who they'll get. So this is the level of behind the scenes work going on in cricket at the moment. And my what I feel is, we have the talent, structure is not world class, it's okay, but we need to adapt to modern day cricket. Modern day cricket is not the cricket Sanat Jayasuri used to play. They still think they can play the cricket they played. I mean, with just you practice, you just can't practice and come and win games now. Practice is not enough, skills is not
And
enough. There's a lot of planning. So I mean, let me finish, Viren. So I just pass it on to you. So Sri Lanka will never be world beaters again with this strategy. Changing structures also won't help us. I mean, I've given up Sri Lanka cricket for a long time. I don't have hope on like structural changes making us win games for 100%. We'll only give average performances in world tournaments. We might surprise big teams occasionally, which still keeps me, which still makes me root for them, because they have the skill. Cricket is a funny game. Despite all the plannings, you can lose an odd game. So we have that ability to pull up a surprise against quality teams, but not consistently. That's for sure. Yeah, over to you, Viren.
thanks, Adil. I want to chip into what you just said towards the end. And I think, as I said earlier, all of us have been conned into believing that our side can deliver on the big stage. As I said earlier, this is the outlier. Victories against in World Cups now have become an outlier. The norm is what we saw today, batting collapses, etc. But I want to touch on something, Junior, about player accountability. Yes, there is politicization of Sri Lanka cricket, but there's politicization of many governing bodies of our game around the world. The BCCI is politicized. Look at Cricket South Africa. There is a racial quota for South African players when they step out onto the field. If that is not politicization for you, I don't know what is. But there's accountability, player accountability. You don't have Kagiso Rabada, Pekukwayo, Bartman going out there and showcasing that they are victims of politicization. They go out there in spite of what's happening behind the scenes. When they don their jersey, they go out to not represent their cricket board, but represent each and every South African supporting them. But I think that's where our cricketers are falling short significantly. Coming to Mendes trying to take Mustafizur to the cleaner's office first delivery was not because of the politicization of Sri Lanka cricket. Patum Nisanka trying to play a stroke that was uncalled for when he was on 47 was not because of the backroom staff changes that took place 2 weeks before the World Cup when Sanat Jayasuriya was appointed as a consultant. Wanindu Hasaranga deciding to nudge at it off his first delivery again was not because of being made a captain 4 or 5 months before the World Cup. What I'm trying to get at is these players, regardless of what's happening behind the scenes, have a responsibility towards the country, towards the fan following, towards everyone backing them when they don that jersey. And that's the most disappointing thing. Because when they leave the field, I get the sense that they use the circumstances they're in as an excuse for their poor performances. But no player will step out there at a press conference and say, yes, sorry, that was my bad. I shouldn't have played that way, right? And this is where I blame the Sri Lankan fans partly for over glorifying these Sri Lankan players. If I ask you, players who have been glorified in the past, you're talking about the World Cup winning squad of 96, our golden era from 96 through to 2014, who gave us unparalleled success. Glorify them all you want, but don't glorify this current breed of Sri Lankan cricketers. Because I'll ask you something. Credit is due where credit is deserved. But where is the credit for these players right now? Are you glorifying players who have subpar averages, subpar bowling strike rates, bowling averages, and players who, when they step out onto the field, have very selfish motives for what they want? This is not what Sri Lanka cricket has prided itself on. We see corners and echo chambers within our Sri Lankan cricket team. We have cliques, we have gangs, we have player agent warfare, we have everything going on behind the scenes that's infiltrating through to our team selections. And that is what's unfortunate to see. Why do I say that? It was quite obvious, and it was quite clear today when we selected our playing 11 that there was going to be no changes based on the game situation, right? And this is why I'm going to try and get to what I'm saying now. At the fall of the second wicket, right, Dhananjay De Silva walked in, right? When Dhananjay De Silva came into bat, yes, his role was to anchor the innings. But upon Patum Nisanka's dismissal, it was imperative for him to take his innings up a notch to allow Charita Asalanka to settle in. But when you have two batters in the middle overs who bring down your scoring rate from the high 9 runs per over mark to the low 7s within a span of 3-4 overs, it applies the pressure that we saw with that collapse after the 14th over, right? And I'll give you the ideal template that Dhananjay should have followed. I look at none other than Taurid Hiddoy, right?
Take on the spinner.
All he needed to do, right? He took the same amount of deliveries to settle in, the same amount of deliveries to customize himself with conditions, but knew exactly when to take it up a notch. And I'd also like to tell our captain, Wanindu Hasaranga, I know he won't tune into this episode because we're still a bludgeoning channel, but when you're going out to press conferences, take some responsibility for your decisions as well. We didn't lose the game because our fifth bowler, Dasun Shanik, was brought into the penultimate over and conceded that 6 off the full toss. The game was sealed at that point. Nuwan Tushar was trying to keep us alive, but the game was lost with poor decision making with the bat. And that is the type of accountability we ask for Junior, for them to be honest with us, honest with the fan following. You as an Indian fan would know this after the 2023 World Cup final. Rohit Sharma was the first one to admit that player accountability was necessary for the loss. I don't see that with Sri Lanka cricket. So I tell you, it's a top-down issue, all the way from the top of the Sri Lanka cricket board to the players representing Sri Lanka. There's always a lack of accountability. You're always looking for a scapegoat for your problems. And I'll call this now, and you can clip this later on. You'll see the first scapegoat from this World Cup campaign when our great coach Chris Silverwood is sacked at the end of this World Cup. I'm calling it right now.
So obvious, right?
He won't have this opportunity of taking this side to England for the Test series. We're going to make a radical change. We're not going to see Chris Silverwood at the helm. We might not even see Tilna Kandambi in the setup anymore. We will have an overhaul and changes based on symbolic changes. Yes, Wanindu Hasanga might also be removed as captain. Angelo Matthews might retire from the format, but those are all symbolic changes.
Correct.
And that is what's going to be very unfortunate.
Same cycle over and over again. Same thing. It's so
I
obvious
think,
that,
yeah, something that both of you said really stuck with me, and I think it will stick with me. It's about the idea of these cricketers trying to replicate the greats. I think Adil said this, right? They're trying to become the next Sanat Jayasuriya. They're trying to become the next Kumar Sangakkara. And then that idea of over glorification is attached to that idea of trying to replicate the greats. They believe that they are that good. And we saw that then correspond into them desperately trying to get good individual performances. Like if you see the scorecard, you'll see that each of them had glimpses of strong performances. Pathum Nisanka with his aggressive style, he was trying to replicate that Sanat Jayasuriya style. And then we saw Charit Asalanka with that brilliant six over cow corner. But he was then put into pressure, as you said, by DDS and his slow run rate when he was trying to survive and then maybe convert that into a half century for himself. So I didn't really see that team cohesiveness that we talked about. I didn't see that collaborativeness in this team, and that's for the reasons that Adil said, Adil and Viren, that 6 months isn't enough time to prepare for a World Cup. This team didn't have enough time to gel together, to know how to create partnerships with each other. You look, there was not a single proper partnership in that Sri Lanka batting lineup. In the beginning we saw Pathum Nisanka trying to get a partnership up DDS and Charit Asalanka try to get a partnership. But on the other hand, you see Hridoy and Litin Das just playing normal cricketing shots, Viren. We didn't see them trying to hit a very nice ball like Charit Asalanka straight to square leg when he was put under pressure by DDS. They were complementing each other really well. Hridoy, that back foot punch to start that partnership up really characterized that partnership as one that was made of simple cricketing shots, and that corresponded into what essentially won Bangladesh that game. So hats off to Hridoy. I really enjoyed watching that innings as a cricketing fan. And also, we have to give credit to that Sri Lankan bowling lineup. What do you think, Viren? Laksisa has joined us. So I would like to get your input in this. What did you think about Sri Lanka's batting, which we just discussed thoroughly, but also about their bowling, if you'd like to say something?
Voice is clear, right? All of you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so if we talk about the batting, I think I heard a lot of you guys talking about it, so I thought I wanted to join the fine as well. And them not having experience playing together, I think that's not an issue, because I think except for Kamini Mendes and Angelo Matthews, rest of the players, they were together during the last two World Cups as well in 2021 and 2022. So I don't think that's an excuse that they can bring up. And the fact that we had 7 wickets going into the last 6 overs. So if we are going into the last 6 overs with 7 wickets in hand and still score 24 runs, I mean, there's something seriously wrong in that batting order. And I think the main issue is that we have too many test batters. I will just point that out straight away. We have too many test batters in that lineup. And we didn't take the needed effort to make sure that we had that we prepared good batters who can play in the T20 format. We had 9 matches earlier this year. It we wanted to get them on board, we had the chance to bring in guys like Lairu Samarapon, Chevon, Daniel, Rasit Puspuli. All we had the chance to test out all these guys. But what we did was we decided to anyway go with the players that we already had, and I think that's one of the main reasons why we have faltered so much as a batting unit. And talking about the bowling, I think Viren and I we talked a lot about this, how good our bowling is. I mean, even with 77 runs on the board, they were really good in that game against South Africa too. I mean, if we had 25 to 30 more runs, who knows, we might have even won that game. So I think Nuwan Tushar, Matisha Patrana, I think Matisha Patrana was not up to his best today. I mean, if he bowled well, I think we really could have gotten on the line. And Mahesh Theekshana was a bit disappointing for me today. Didn't bowl that well with the new ball. He needed to insert some more pressure with the new ball in that power play, but he just couldn't do that. And but Nuwan Tushar, once again, a lot of people thought that he will be a huge flop because I mean the first few matches for Mumbai Indians he didn't perform that well, but I think as he played more matches, he came into his own and made sure that he performed. And in this World Cup, he's doing really well against South Africa. He was really good, except for that brilliant stroke by Markram. Except for that, he was really good against South Africa and today as well. And I think we are missing one of Dushman Shamir or Dilshan Madhushankar. That's my honest opinion. We need one of those two in the side to go with Matisha and Nuwan Tushar, because my station is not in good form. I don't think there's any use of playing him. Or even Dasun Shahanaga, with the way things are going, there's actually no real use of playing him, because we are going with 8 batters because we don't have the confidence in that top order, and that's a huge issue. I mean, even the bowling is getting affected because of the batting issue that we have. I mean, if we had the confidence in those top order batters, we would have easily played either Dushman Shamir or Dilshan Madhushankar. So, I mean, it's not only the issue is not only in the batting when they fail, that actually goes into the bowling department as well. So I think we missed out on the golden opportunity of playing three very good quicks together, three of the best quicks in this format, in my opinion. Nuwan Tushar, Matisha Patran, and either Dushman Shamir or Dilshan Madhushankar. Ideal Dilshan Madhushankar because he brings in that left arm option. And I mean, if we had him today, I believe he could have surely taken a wicket or two today with the new ball. So yeah, I mean, it all goes back to that issue, the batting department issue. I mean, we don't have the confidence, and because of that, we are playing with an extra all rounder. He's not performing, and because of that, we don't have that extra bowler.
And I want to take this question from the direct hit. I completely agree with you, and I think this is highlighted by what Laxisi Junior, Adil, and I have spoken of over the past 15 to 20 minutes about the structural issues, all the external factors surrounding Sri Lanka cricket. But I'll tell you why I've reached a tipping point today. I think I've reached saturation point with the what ifs linked to Sri Lanka cricket. Against South Africa, it was what if we won the toss. Today it was what if we brought Dushman Chamira and Dilshan Madhushankar into the 11.
South Africa, we won the
Tony,
toss.
I'll tell you, I should give you a
We had the
perfect.
We needed.
Yeah, we won the toss and had the advantage.
That if we had
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So karma hit us really hard today because we lost control of them. But I'm going to tell you one thing that I think is a perfect illustration of why we have different incentives, different priorities within Sri Lanka cricket. We had a LPL auction review show the other day, which has now just clocked over 2,000 views on YouTube. So thanks to all our followers for tuning in. For those of you who don't know this, the LPL is meant to start 12 and a half hours or less than 24 hours after the final of the World T20 meant to be played in the Caribbean. So what is that signaling effect from Sri Lanka cricket? Don't worry, franchise owners who've come into our paradise island. You will have our Sri Lankan players available because by no means are we reaching the World Cup final. So if your own cricket board has no trust in you, if your own cricket board has no faith in the players to go out there and deliver, what else could we ask for, and why have we been taken as bait by Sri Lanka cricket in terms of fans? And my second question, 2.5
Yeah, Viren, before you jump on to the second one, this exact question was asked by a journalist from Samantha Dodanwala, who is the director of the LPL, and he gave me a very surprising answer. He said, "We are playing the final and we are winning the World Cup. So it will be just 15 to 19 players who will be coming joining late. We'll be winning the World Cup and we'll also be playing LPL. I mean, the audacity to say something after you have already done a scheduled such a thing. I mean, it's just I mean, as you said previously, they are not honest with the public. Like they're clearly saying contrasting things, and it's so disheartening. And as you pointed out, they have no confidence in us playing the final. But to come out and say that, surprising.
And,
Yeah,
and,
sorry.
and, and leading on to what others, and I want to focus on Sri Lanka cricket for a bit. You have organized a provincial tournament, a T20 tournament, before the LPL auction, so that everyone can get a feel of what's happening. And your top run scorer doesn't get selected by an LPL franchise. Certain examples that really go to prove to me that there are certain different incentives within Sri Lanka cricket. And this is my hot take here, Junior. 2 weeks before a world event, 2 weeks before your team is supposed to be practicing and getting prepared to play in the US, you have certain players, and I don't want to mention names, who are key frontrunners in auction table for an LPL, which happens after a World Cup. I'll give you an equivalent example. Let's assume the IPL auction was held 2 weeks before the World T20. It's like having Virat Kohli at the RCB desk or leading an auction, as opposed to going out there and being with the team practicing. I don't want to mention names, but these are issues that are so systemic. It's so obvious where these flaws are. And I'll tell you one final thing, Junior, before I yield the floor back to you to take this forward. Why I've gone on a bit of a rant today is because this has happened over and over and over again. There are peaks and troughs. Sri Lanka cricket expects us to ride this wave. They'll throw a carnival atmosphere with the LPL. They'll invite teams like Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, Ireland over to Sri Lanka with no disrespect to them. We'll beat them in ODI and T20 series. They'll make us believe that everything is all right, and we go to the next ICC event with only 5 or 6 months of planning. I'm going to tell you something, and this is the most scathing assessment of Sri Lanka cricket that I give you today. If Sri Lanka faces the USA tomorrow, USA will go into that game as favorites in my books. And I'll tell you why. They're a well-oiled machine, a well-oiled and united team that knows their role fulfillment to the core. Harmeet Singh knew what his role was coming into bat in a super over when he didn't play a single delivery in regulation time. That's the equivalent of Dasun Shanka being brought in for a super over. I can already see him failing and then giving the excuse that he didn't have any time to get used to conditions during regulation play. Corey Anderson, one of your main batsmen, are left on in the dugout because he knows exactly what his role is. USA could have gone with Ali Khan for the super over, but they went with Saurabh because they knew Saurabh had the composure to see out that super over. If Sri Lanka was facing Haris Rauf in that final over, I'll tell you this right now, we wouldn't have crossed the line. And that is the assessment of Sri Lanka cricket today that is so jarring. Put us against the USA, put us against the Netherlands, or you don't have to because Netherlands beat us in the warm-up game, but put us against any of these teams and we still are fighting against them. Go back 4 or 5 years ago, not too long ago. Go back to 2014. Sri Lanka got Netherlands bundled out for 30 something, or for 30 odd in the 2014 T20 World Cup. We were dismantling minnows. We were called the minnow bashers. But now, whatever, the tides have turned, Junior, and that's very, very unfortunate.
I'd like to get Laxis's take on this. Just your general assessment of where Sri Lanka cricket is headed, because Adil and Viren have very clearly expressed their views. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. Adding to what Viren mentioned, it's Aaron Jones, right? The batter from USA. Yeah, Aaron Jones is actually better than all the Sri Lankan batters at the moment in this form. I think that sums up the answer to the question that you asked for. Because Aaron Jones, I mean, he's not even a proper cricketer. I mean, most of the USA guys are not professional cricketers like the Sri Lankans, but they have the intent and they know how to play the game. And another thing we didn't mention, role clarity is always there for them. We don't have that. Our players, they don't know what their roles are. They just come out there and it's like they just woke up after sleeping straight away and came out there to bat. They don't know what their role is. But USA, they have a very good plan. As Viren mentioned, USA, they'll just beat us. They might even whitewash us in three-match series without any problems. I think maybe our bowlers might save us, the likes of Matija and the rest. But if we trust on our batters in a series against USA, they'll definitely outplay them, and they'll definitely be embarrassed because the USA bowling lineup is solid as well. Ali Khan, look how good he is, and I think Saurabh, the left arm pacer, he's amazing. So I think that's the place Sri Lanka cricket is in at the moment. And I think, as Viren mentioned this on a Facebook post today as well, I think it's time to hit that reset button in this format, in my opinion. We went with the same players for three World Cups. Three World Cups we went with most of these players, at least 10 or 11 of these players have been a part of the three World Cups that happened from 2021, 2022, and this year. So I think it's time to hit that reset button and maybe bring in the likes of Lassit Cruzpool, Shevon Daniel, Pawan Ratnaik, Pastor Surya Bandar, maybe in the ODS, also showing the T20s, Lahiru Samarakon. So those names are there as batters who can actually hit the ball hard. And no, Lahiru Samarakon, this is actually a very disappointing story because Lahiru Samarakon, he played in that preparation tournament and he was actually not given the chance to bowl. He bowled like one over in two of the matches that he played, and he took a wicket in both those games after bowling just one over. So I mean, that's really disappointing to see someone with so much potential not being given the opportunity. So I think it's time to hit that reset button, and I think we must stop trusting in these bunch of players, except for the bowlers and Patum Nishank and Charita Salakwe. And Kamigu Mendis, it's a bit early to call on him. He failed in the two matches, yes, but he was really good in the last three bilateral tours that we had. But I think, except for Patum and Charit, who played in the previous two World Cups as well, I think it's time to change things around. Mahindu Hasaranga is, of course, he has to stay there in the side, but yeah, not so sure whether he stays there with the as the captain.
And Junior, sorry, you can re-tag this or retitle this as the ultimate Sri Lanka cricket rant by the four core members of the Ion cricket team. But to respond to the direct hit, we've gone beyond that stage. We reached that stage a long time ago. I've gone over the trip now. I've done everything I can to try and dissociate from the sheer pain and agony of continuing to be in this predicament that is Sri Lanka cricket. And Lakshisi mentioned something very, very, very apt. If tomorrow we decide we ship all these players out and bring in the likes of Shevon Daniel, Lassit Cruzpool, Pawan Ratnayakar, your agenda folk or folk who call for experience will come back hard at you. Let me ask them, where was your push for an experienced player when we were 64 for 6 against South Africa and you have a swipe on a delivery that was heading straight into middle stump? Where was this so-called experienced player when it was obvious, and I call this from my own room, that Taskin Ahmed was going to bowl a short delivery, don't have a swipe at it, and it'll carry through to Litton Das? Where was this experienced player when you wanted him to bowl a crucial delivery in the penultimate over and it ends up being a juicy full toss? I'm not trying to, I won't name names, but it's bloody obvious on who I'm trying to refer to here. These so-called agenda folks into Sri Lanka cricket have to see the modernization of the game. You look at every other team around you. Look at Australia, for instance. The likes of Tim David, the likes of Fraser McGurk, who is now making the rounds in Australian cricket, right? You look at the likes of India, where you have players like Jaiswal coming in, youngsters with proven pedigree in these formats. It's time to stop idealizing players for what they've not done. Let me go back, and I hate to have a scathing remark of this. With just 5 fingers, I can count the number of times these proven agenda winners have won games for Sri Lanka, right? You're talking about Pallekele, you're talking about India, you're talking about a couple of other instances. But is that enough to guarantee you a spot in the side for the foreseeable future? And that is where Sri Lanka cricket's take on recency bias should end. Why do I keep saying our victories are outliers? You won't win a game chasing 50 of the final 3 overs every day, like we did in Pallekele and Sharaka. You won't win a game where everything goes horribly wrong for England in Bangalore for you to win a game and you nearly fumble that chasing early on by losing 2 wickets to David Willey. You won't win a game, right, based on an individual piece of brilliance by Wanindu Hasaranga to get you a couple of wickets to bring you back into the game. And you won't win a game by Nuwan Tushara nearly clawing your way back. Those are outliers, those are extremes, right? The closest example I can think of is Lasith Malinga's 4 for in 2007. Sri Lanka cricket during our golden era didn't have to rely on one man to bring us close to victory. It was a team effort. You look at that 2007 World Cup squad, I'm only referring to Sri Lanka. From the likes of Chamara Silva to Dilhara Fernando, every member of that squad knew what their role was in the side. And that was what Tom Moody and Mahela Jayawardene dictated to them. In 2014, every member knew their role in the side to the extent that the captain knew he was underperforming and dropped himself ahead of the final. Right? If Sri Lanka reached the final of the T20 World Cup this year and Wanindu Hasaranga was underperforming as captain, do you think he dropped himself for the final? I highly doubt it. And that is where I show you the downfall of Sri Lanka cricket, where there is absolutely no accountability for your own performances. We will not have a Dinesh Chandimal again from 2014. We will not have the ultimate role fulfillment we saw in 2007. And we will also never have the role fulfillment we saw during that golden passage of Sri Lanka cricket for as long as there's no accountability. And I speak about accountability time in, time out linked to Sri Lanka cricket. And it's going to be frustrating for all our viewers listening, tuning in. But I'm going to end this, and I think our fans have stuck with us for nearly 50 minutes on this rant. But I need to tell you all something. I have never known of a critic like Adil Siddiq here, someone who follows Sri Lankan cricket to the core, right? Someone, and I've said this before, he's the database, the encyclopedia for domestic cricket in Sri Lanka. You will never have someone who speaks so passionately about Sri Lanka cricket like Laksisi De Silva, be it on the Papare, be it here, be it on any other platform he's on. You will not have another Indian supporting Sri Lanka like you have with Viren Jr. And Jr., on behalf of Sri Lanka fans, thank you for tuning in and for being there for Sri Lanka through our darkest times. But we on the Eye on Cricket speak absolute fact, absolute truth. We have no agendas, which is why I hope those who are watching realize that we are not coming from a place of malice. When all of you lost hope in Sri Lanka cricket during this rut, when all of you stopped supporting Sri Lanka cricket after 2014 and were periodic or seasonal fans, Laksisi, Adil, Junior and I have followed each and every game. From the loss in Namibia last year to the near losses in Scotland prior to the 2019 World Cup, from the shambolic displays in each of our World Cup campaigns, we've been there to support our troop. And you can be rest assured, come our next game against Nepal, we will drop this and be very supportive of our team going out to the field. But it was important for us to have this discussion for all our fans tuning in to realize that this is where Sri Lanka cricket is at. And it's important for even fans to take accountability for our behavior. So the next time you start to glorify a player from this crop, ask yourself what they have done for the country, what they've done for their team. And with that, Junior, I yield the floor back to you to wrap this up.
I think that was the perfect way to sum our discussion up, Viren. Thank you for tuning in.